Which one is I'm being cantankerous? But you report Chelsea scoring a Wolves 6-2 in a shambolic
No,
performance. And you say, yeah, Wolves was just shambolic. It's not that Chelsea was better.
see, I'm not even asking for too much. I'm not even asking for too much. I'm just saying when City scored us, it was first game of the season,
Mhm.
very very first game of the season, and then you sent me a DM saying, "Oh, you said you win." Ha ha ha. Like when after this kind of performance against Wolves, I just need an acknowledgement and saying,
No,
okay, maybe I was too quick to judge you or
no,
anything like no credit, no
no,
credit.
no. You know the reason why no? Because first off, people need to know the City game. You mentioned you guys were going to score City 4-0. You said in fact, maybe not the name. You said you were going to score 4 goals against City. The point is, you
Yes.
knew the shape of your team. You were too quick to praise your team. You set a booby trap for yourself and you fell into it. And then I came to remind you that, per your own words, you said you were going to score 4. You didn't.
Good.
Prior to Wolves, you didn't come and tell me you score 6. And it was luck because you Chelsea fans were even panicking after the
No,
first half. You guys were
no,
not sure. The second half was a shock to you people. You, your own fans, were shocked by the second half performance. Don't tell me you were
no.
predicting that Chelsea would end up
Listen,
dominating that game.
two things, right? So first, I think the first thing is that you are right because I pointed it out. Well, I was too quick to judge, but I
Yeah.
dispute that I was too quick to judge.
Uh-huh.
First, because it was a response to an outrageous characterization of what the Chelsea team is looking like right now. Outrageous. People were like, we're shambolic. We didn't
No,
know what we're doing. We're training
no.
42 players. No, no. I allowed you to give your context. My own context is very
Uh-huh.
important.
Uh-huh.
So when I said, look, we are going to put in a very, very good performance, you people will be shocked. It wasn't maybe, I think the failure of that analysis was maybe my lack of proper assessment of what the City squad looked like. They look
Mhm.
far sharper for a first day team. So,
Uh-huh.
yes, and I think on the counterbalance, we looked also slightly off from what I anticipated I would look like. Even though I knew it was the beginning of the season, I'd seen some of the kind of football they played, and I thought that they were not going to commit those blunders like those 4 goals against like those 4 goals they considered in
Mhm.
preseason against City. They wouldn't commit them. On account of that, I thought we could attack them more, which we did. So I don't think I'm wrong in sort of overhyping or propping up my team and I think the second game has proven it that there's a team in there that everyone is underrating. I think that's what I wanted to
Okay.
point out. I've forgotten the second thing I wanted to respond to.
Okay. I'll come to this in a bit and I'll ask you a point blank question. The only thing I want to point out here is I don't think anyone sit here and underrates the Chelsea team. I'm one of them. It's not that I disrespect the Chelsea team, because obviously for me, I recognize the talent that you guys have. I just don't think you guys have had enough time under Enzo Maresca for you to call it a structured team. For instance, if Poch was the one who was taking Chelsea into this season, looking at how he had got his principles being applied properly at the latter end of last season, I would have a higher expectation of Chelsea than whatever expectation I
I
have now.
vehemently
And that's
disagree.
because that's because it is not that the Chelsea team and Enzo Maresca are a bad combination. It is that for every coach, when you have too much expectation of them until you give them time to implement their principles, they are going to struggle. Look what Chelsea was doing in preseason. This game, I bet you, is a one-off. Give Chelsea subsequent games, and they are still going to struggle.
Look, I vehemently disagree. I think the Poch project, the upward trajectory of the Poch project is a bit underrated. It was still quite clear that Enzo Caicedo was a struggle and we were going to concede. I mean, we were a bit tidy at the back end of the season.
But who
I
were the
think
options you had?
it was I think it was quite clear that the Poch needed to make some signings, and that's exactly the point of conflict at which they knew that they couldn't continue with the project. Everyone knew that Poch needed to make certain key signings in order to make the team work. We were in the market for midfielders who were quite tall, more athletic. So our transfer targets were people like Onana, etc. Because we
Mhm.
needed, he kept on saying we needed height in the midfield, amongst a number of things. And that changed the trajectory of what the vision that the sporting directors had. Because they like Enzo Caicedo. They like Romeo Lavia. So anyone you're going to buy in that instance would have to bench those guys, and they weren't going to be sacrificed. Like these were the pawn pieces, like the bishops and the knights of the whole project. And
Mhm.
Poch was going to sacrifice them. And for me, I thought that was going to unwind the further cracks down the team. This
Oh,
obviously was going to affect balance. No, obviously, then you have to mold away from it. It causes other business decisions,
I'm not
which,
saying
like
I'm
you
not
yourself
saying
said,
Poch is like Poch's trajectory was better. The case I'm making is Poch had had enough time with the team for you to see exactly what the team wants to do. And it wasn't just what he wanted to do, but also for the
the team
team to
was
grasp his ideas and start to try and implement it properly, right? Currently,
what the team
Enzo
would do
Maresca
is what Poch wants to do.
Currently, Enzo Maresca, his offensive play, because he has very exciting and athletic forward players, very, very good. You can see the high press. But then you realize that it's tilting the coordination of the team because now they press very high, leave huge gaps in midfield. The defense is sometimes also following them very, very high line. And if you watch the Wolves first half, you could see the clear gaps in that style of play. 1 minute, the ball is here, the next minute is at the other end of the post. So they are not managing the balance well. And that's what I'm saying, that Chelsea is not there yet.
It, and no, what you're saying would have been fantastic, but the reason why the fan base love this coach, because one thing you forget is that this fan base was not united on who they wanted to be the next Chelsea coach. This
Yeah.
fan base was not united about it. We've seen more progression towards unity over time towards this coach than it was at the beginning of this signing when they put in the short list and people were like, Maresca is a favorite. People were like, why are you pretending? You don't even know this guy. But they've been
Mhm.
more united. And you know why? Because this particular manager identifies the mistakes. He knows them and he's speaking to you. Like all these lines you are talking about. No, wait. Let me land with the point. All these
Uh-huh.
lines you are talking about, he has already spoken about them in press conference. And you know what his
Yeah.
comment was? That this was a behavior from the past that they are trying to change within the boys. This is a coach who knows, and that leads me to the response which I couldn't land on in the previous submission. You are
Mhm.
underestimating how much they'll be learning on the job, and
Oh.
you are overestimating how much of a good start you need. City never peaks in the first half of the season. They have some haphazard results, certain draws there and there, uh, one loss in a while. They'll do that. I'm not saying that we'll have the same margin of errors as City, but if we
Mhm.
consider that our target is top four, such scale of a margin of error should be enough to get us there. When we start bad, where he's figuring out his first 11, you
Mhm.
underestimate how much the team is going to be improving on itself week by week, especially when
Mhm.
he has a double squad. It's fielding two complete different squads in two different competitions. They are going to stay fresher. They are going to have more knowledge playing amongst themselves. And for me, that was a crucial factor in
So,
sort of like
again, I think you're arguing against someone who is not sitting here because if you've listened to everything I said, it's exactly what you just repeated. My claim is when you make the statement that Chelsea is there, I should put respect on Chelsea's name. No,
yeah.
not yet. Obviously, I know there's the potential, but that's the thing. Up until that potential materializes, you as a Chelsea fan can ascribe that belief to it. I won't up until I see it because I need
No,
proof. You need belief. I need proof.
no,
There are two
of
different things
course,
for us.
there's a duality. There's a duality in like the claim that you make because you want it to mean something else also to me. When you say it's not there, you are not that statement is not there doesn't prove that
Mhm.
what you call it doesn't admit to the potential that's there. I
Oh
think
no,
there's
no,
a way
no, no.
in which
I've
no, I
admitted to
don't
the
think it
potential several times. Even in this
no.
conversation, I've admitted to the
No,
potential several times.
of course, within this conversation, you are providing more nuance. But your
No,
dismissiveness at the start of the season was that
the start.
Chelsea won't change.
I told you that my problem with your claim is that, and which is what made me even use the Poch analogy because my problem is that I don't see this team implementing Maresca style of play to the way in which it would be sustainable yet because it's too early. And that's why I said this win over Wolves for me is a fluke because they are still going to be exposed in subsequent games until they learn. You are saying,
Uh,
no, 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 this win is where we are. So we are going to be jumping on the hoops in the next game.
no.
I don't think
I don't
that's
think
the
that's what I'm saying. Like, it would be very naive of me. It will be, and the
then we are
listeners
literally
would
saying the same thing.
know this. No, no. Listen, it would be very naive of me to think that like would go there and like be invincible.
Yeah.
When the expectations of Chelsea, I think what the problem is our perception of expectations. No Chelsea fan is sitting there thinking we are going to win the league. We just want to get out of that 10th position. We just want to start going to the Champions League
Well, you want to
consistently.
get to eighth.
We want to, yeah, we just don't want that horrible season again because like our hearts won't be able to take it. So for me, I think this squad is good enough to make top four. Last season it was, yeah, I think because they've improved, they should make top four. This season, it's
Yeah.
more. I think we've set the switch, and once we press on the trigger,
Hmm.
yes, it's going to take some time, but I think that it's going to build up a lot of momentum. By the end of the season, I think we'll start seeing what an ideal Maresca side will look like. But even that non-ideal side, I think should challenge a lot of big teams, should be able to overwhelm small teams because what yesterday was a sign of what a Maresca side can do for me.
Mhm.
Like, and I admit that,
Yeah.
yeah, of course there are the struggles and things like that. But I think over time, those errors are going to decrease. Those
Because
same because he's learning very quickly from his mistakes. He's
you
learning
know
very, very, very quickly.
how I evaluate the Wolves match, for instance. In the first half, the scores could have been much worse than 2-2. Wolves were probably the better side in the first half. Chelsea obviously capitalized, were much more clinical with their chances. Wolves had more chances. At some point, they were very, very persistent. If that first half ended up as 3-2, the mood could easily be different, right? And so for me, if you have a team that's playing very, very good offensive football, but is too porous and very risky, and that's what I'm saying, as at now, obviously Manchester United is a very terrible example of this. But as at now, that's kind of where Maresca and his people are. And it's a little bit difficult to not recognize that they are going to struggle a little bit within the season. And look, there are other teams who are also improving. So who knows? The battle there will be tough.
Yeah. I think time will tell. I think maybe there's a margin of difference in what we think, but time will
Yeah,
eventually
yeah,
tell.
yeah.
Anyway, that
But
was
I
the
mean,
longest intro.
Enzo Maresca. Oh, guys, sorry. Welcome to the Shaft podcast. Welcome to the Beer Parlour. This is another episode of the Beer Parlour where we review the top issues within the first 2 weeks of the EPL season, and then we'll come your way with much more consistent discussions. But obviously, we started this with a banter because before we started the recording, Erasmus was making some too overly ambitious claims about Chelsea, and I wasn't going to stand for it. Obviously, he's had this club back saying I wasn't appreciating context, but my context has been clear right from the start. The Chelsea boys are good players individually. They still need to learn to play under Maresca. And I don't think they are there yet. The Wolves was a fluke. It's not Chelsea. We would see the
No,
better Chelsea sides in the coming weeks because
we'll definitely
come back,
talk about this, but
they will
I'm
come
not
back
backing
to
down.
everyday Chelsea. But yeah, what I was saying was Maresca has taken control. We are seeing him do the work in the subsequent in these early weeks of the season. And there've been some strikingly defining contrast between him and maybe coaches that have been probably after Mourinho left Chelsea, which is maybe the only coach that comes close to that might be Thomas Tuchel, who you would say because of his pedigree, he had the balls to make some of these claims. But Maresca has been very brutal, and people would say for a coach who doesn't have EPL CV, you shouldn't be this sharp mouthed like in terms of exactly what you are saying and how brutal he's been with his words. But
Mm.
we've seen him speak about the likes of Chilwell, the likes of Raheem Sterling, and clearly saying that they are good players. They are not players I want. I don't like them in my squad, ostracize them. Chelsea has about 40 something players. He says he's only working with 25, 26. And so those are the people he works with. Everybody else is not part of his squad. And people, it has generated conversations about whether that is going to dictate the culture in Chelsea and in terms of the expectations, knowing that this manager can sideline you. Now, this reminds me very recently of a Dutch manager who joined the English Premier League and had quote unquote similar characteristics that people were pointing to. Who again they likened to a club great like Alex Ferguson when they said, "Oh, yeah, Ten Hag was brutal. He punishes players. He made them run this and that. They got the results. They said he was changing the culture. Blah blah blah. He ostracized Ronaldo. He punished. He benched Rashford. He sanctioned Sancho. And people again drew all those comparisons and said, yeah, he was coming to dictate the culture and change the culture, and he's been brutal. What I'm pointing at is that, especially within football, when a team is not playing well and a new manager comes and is making all these or showing these brutal signs, people tend to associate brutality with discipline and culture. But we've not seen that always be the case. How different is Maresca from all these other people who just blow their trumpets in the first part of the seasons and then all of a sudden
No
going
way.
into don't go well?
This is one. I'm very very sorry. This is one of the most absurd characterizations of the Maresca campaign I've ever heard. This is one of the most
That's why I'm
absurd
giving you the opportunity to respond, because those are
No, no.
characterizations that are out there, and I'm bringing it here for you to respond because
I see. First
obviously
of all,
you would want to disagree with them.
I see two questions, right? I
Uh-huh.
see Enzo Maresca's approach
Mhm.
um, to being brutal, and I acknowledge that, and I think that's good. I think there's a reason for that, and I think there's a this is the it's one of the jewels or this one of the pieces in the jigsaw puzzle that
Mhm.
we needed to fix in terms of the profile of the squad and the kind of manager that we needed. But I
Yeah.
think the second more absurd claim, and especially in comparison to Ten Hag and why there's an assurance that it will work. The first one will answer the second one, but the second one I want to independently also talk about and respond to. I
Okay.
think, I think, no, and I want to respond to this first of all with examples. If you
Mhm.
look at Ateta, Ateta did same after he came from Pep, where he targeted senior members of the squad. And most of the reasons that was circulated for the reason he parted with them was he said they were unmotivated. These are, and I'm not even saying this is just something that Arteta does. It's something that every club does. But
Yeah.
these are the guys who have known to have done it in the most ruthless way. Other clubs try and keep them on the bench, things like that. They say that when you assemble a squad, and that's why you compare them to people like Mourinho. When you assemble a squad, they view the team playing as a hive. Their mentality should be connected, their goals should be the same, their purpose should be the same, which is to play for the team to succeed at that point in time and to be hungry at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's what Arteta did, clearing out the headwood. When Vincent Company went to Burnley after he left Pep, he did the same thing. Guess where they learnt it from? Guardiola, because he's the most ruthless person ever. In his first press conference or so, he says, Hart, what's his full
So
name?
hurt.
Joe Hart should find a club. First or second press conference, he said it. And he didn't care because he had a style of football he wanted to play. He had certain
Yeah.
principles, ideologies he wanted to transmit, and he needed those same exact people. Ten Hag situation, and the reason why I find the comparison ridiculous. Ten Hag situation wasn't just a case of who bought into his ideology of how he wanted to play or not. And you can
Mhm.
admit that stylistically, Ronaldo didn't press and do those things. But we've
Yeah.
seen Pep Guardiola will say, okay, he wants to play with Ronaldo or have a player that's, for example, when Aguero started having his injuries, still keep Aguero and still create a system around him which makes him much more comfortable to prevent more injuries, things like that, and started making him drop more deeper and like playing in the 10 rule. They can still find a use for you if they like you. Problem was that Ten
Yeah.
Hag didn't like Ronaldo because he thought he challenged him in terms of his ego. Ten Hag is a very, very egoistic person, and it's quite clear. I don't think anyone even contends with it. His measures of discipline, the ways in which he does it, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes, for example, in the Sancho situation, I saw him tamper his kindness more. So it was a very, very egoistical scenario, and I'm not challenging the
But isn't
validity of.
Maresca showing his egos.
I'll come there. I'll come there. I because in most cases I don't even think it's invalid to say that this player I can't manage him, so it will
Okay.
destroy the harmony I have. Oh, it's better you admit it than keep the person there and cause issues. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think directly this is what Maresca was going for. Maresca said it clearly because he didn't give reasons like hide beats behind the bush like what Ten Hag was doing. He's
Mm.
directly said, "I prefer my wingers a style of way. Raheem Sterling is not that winger. It was purely football, purely football. He had a style. He needed someone who played that style."
But you also said there are coaches who maybe if you don't suit their style, they still accommodate you. So Maresca could have. He just chose not to. People
No,
could also point it
no.
to he has huge
No,
egos.
of course. No, of course. It's and I'm saying this. I want to when I start responding to the first scenario I was talking about in
Mhm.
terms of like his style of being very very brutal and everything.
Yeah.
If fits, this is where the football connects to the business. Sterling is on 325K a week, a single week. The president of Ghana doesn't take that in a year, but but
Because you have a
and
terrible currency. Don't blame Chelsea for it.
yes, 325K in a week, which is one of the top earners within the Premier League, and he's a top earner. But the key thing
Mhm.
here is Sterling's kind of contract, right? And I'm
Mhm.
already going into the Sterling situation, but the key thing here is Sterling's kind of contract. It's
Mhm.
an old, no, it's one of these early, very early contracts signed at the beginning of the regime that did
Mhm.
not incorporate the progressive earning clause in there.
Mhm.
Most of the contracts they are giving out now as part of when the sporting directors joined and then
Performance
they
based.
began to craft the
Yes.
vision. Yes. So you now have a squad where Sterling is not producing to the level at which his
But he's
money
the
his
outlier.
yes, and he's the outlier. So you are forced to play kids instead of him. And it means he'll be sitting on the bench more and you'll
Yeah.
be earning 325K while sitting on a bench a bit more in order for us to give other people the opportunity. And he's going to start memorying and things like that. And it's not just to point to an ego situation. It points to what I said at the beginning of the discussion.
Yeah.
Sterling at that point of his career is a leech. He's just going to sit on top at the big club somewhere, earning the reputation. And he's good enough to be able to get a couple of goals and assists, but he's not hungry enough. And that's the simple truth. He's not hungry enough to be able to
Mm.
do this. So
Okay.
it suited very well with all of the goals and objective. And that's why I don't think it's a single big ego decision that he's trying to make. And the second part of this is that, like I said, the profile of the squad is made up of very, very young players.
Yeah.
When you compare a coach like Poch, for example, he had a daddy bear kind of personality. He
Yeah.
makes mistakes and he coddles them. Case in point, the penalty incident where Madueke and Jackson
Yeah.
were making a mess of themselves on the stage. Poch, it was one of the few sessions I saw Poch come out and say, okay, I'll do it. But even then, people said he was too soft on the boys. And I'm not one of those who thinks, oh, it's crazy to, yeah, because this is people should take into context. This is not about parenting style or anything. This is about sports where you're dealing with full grown men, like professionals who are delivering on their job. Like Poch just gives a lot of leeway for you to make mistakes even when we're ambitious in terms of signing a striker last season, because we started chasing Osimhen and Co and Ivan Toney last season, said no, Jackson is okay. Jackson will do, especially from the summer transfer window. He said we have Nkuku. Nkuku will come. He was very very cuddly, and me, I think even if he took off, this project would have been very, very, very late in taking off. This man puts responsibility on you. He says you are paid into the club to, and he knows that these kids are impressionable, but they need to be pushed to the limits. These are people. This is a group of young boys who just have potential only, have not seen
Yeah.
character, have not. They need to be pushed to that point where that hunger and drive is showing in them. And I'm not saying Poch cannot do that. These people cannot do that. I'm just saying that the kind of style that you have can also impact the length of time you'll be able to reach that amongst a number of things.
Yeah, fair, fair. I mean, let's move away from this and let me ask a subsequent question. You said let's connect the management with the business. Obviously, there's a thing about when a player is known to be no more in need by a club, it affects the market value of the player. You want to move Sterling on. ostracizing him from the squad doesn't take him off your wage bill. It doesn't reduce his wages in any way. And like you said, his contract is one of the early contracts that has static remunerations. The weekly wages will still be there. It doesn't change anything. And you want him to leave, and if you don't get the right value for him as well, or you don't make him desirable on the market, he doesn't get to go, and he's draining. He's elite for the next 3 years because he has 3 years left on his contract. The question is that decision not conflicting with your ability to actually move these players on as quickly as possible?
I think there are two, and this is no way a response to. I think this question you asked is an opinion I've seen circulating around a few times. I want to respond to
Yeah.
that. I think it reeks of a lack of understanding of basic economics, and it
Mm.
also reeks of hypocrisy. And I'll explain those reasons to you. First of all, right,
Yeah.
when you will need when before a player is bought, there needs
Mm.
to be an interest. An
Okay.
interest needs to be generated. When a
Mm.
player is on a 5-year contract, 6-year contract, and it's in the second season of his contract, nothing indicates interest. Before you go
Yeah.
out there into the market to pursue a player, you need to first of all understand. So some of
You
these
are right.
players sometimes
Yeah.
privately leak. That's why they
Yeah.
leak information, things like that, in order to bait people to get interest. If you keep Sterling playing one or two, three times on the pitch throughout the season, people would people would not approach. But we need him gone before the season begins. Like, we need him gone because once the season begins, you have to deal with business, like especially within the sports world. These things are they try to do a lot of business within the summer so that whilst games are going on, they don't have to engage in more of these things. We need a squad settled
Yeah.
before the season starts. So we need him gone. If you need him gone by the end of the window, then you need to tell people that we need him gone. You need to signal to the market that you need him gone, and that is what is
Fair.
going to force their.
Fair.
So it's more of a catch-22 situation, but it's also the hypocrisy which happens because there's no way anyone we sit in our corner and anyone approaches and say, "Well, let me take Sterling off your hand."
Yeah. Yeah.
But the
Yeah. Yeah.
second thing also is that the second thing is a case of bad economics, and that's what I want to respond to. Because people use the analogy and say that if you grow a lot of corn, and they
Ah,
have those animations, you grow a lot of corn, and then there's too much corn, and everyone knows if you
what?
don't sell the corn
This
will
one
go
I've not
bad,
heard.
the price will go down. There's a podcaster I respect so much, Rabona TV, and I'm a huge fan and follower, right? But like that analogy was wrong. Like it was something that I would even say I would want to leave a comment on so that he would engage.
Yeah.
No, only just a response to that, not to say that because he shares very fantastic logic and is
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of where I
Yeah.
get my inspirations. And it's wrong because especially within sports, there is a market value for players.
Yeah.
Sometimes the reason why we see outrageous transfer prices is because those prices it's not just the club goes there and says, "Hey, I'll give you 50 million." Then they say, "Okay, no, give me 60." Then because that's how people think negotiations happen,
Yeah.
especially like working in finance.
Yeah.
I would happen to know one or two things about how these
Yeah.
things will go. There is a market value. There is a market value there,
Yeah.
and it's calculated on the basis of a lot of things. Sometimes it's influenced by the kind of contracts that you have, any exit fees, amongst a number of things. So when people are before they approach you, they know the market value. Now
Yeah.
there are cases where the value would rise based on player performances,
Yeah.
etc., a
Yeah.
number of things, which you see the thing balloon, like especially if the player is happy and want to price him away, the club will feel like, I can make a little bit more on top of the market value, and at that point, it like obviously they'll make the transfer fee high. There are times where it can reduce it, but
Yeah.
then in most cases you can't reduce it outrageously because there's
Yeah.
an understanding of the market value. And at that point where the club is looking at the market value, in a way, on paper, it would consider moving on an asset and being able to save much more. So the price may
Yeah.
look small to you in that term, but that is the value at which the player should go in order not to incurring even way further losses for them. And so it's not a case of you enter there send any kind of money that he wants. The club is very
Yeah,
well aware what they most likely would be
yeah,
expecting or
yeah,
getting, which when he goes is of no value to them. They would rather keep the player. So
yeah.
it's not a case of you put them on don't call me, then everyone that's what. Just to
I mean,
chip in, you
well,
saw the rumors of the double bid like Chile Sterling for Sancho. Like
yeah,
look at
yeah,
a player
yeah.
like Sancho, 25 years, exciting, played in a Champions League final. You are getting to, I don't know if Chilwell would ever be the kind of left back he was. Again, Sterling is quite
That,
clear that he's never
that,
going to be
that
that
deal,
kind.
if United makes it, it will be one of the most, not even quote unquote, one of the most plainly stupid deals I've seen.
No, I disagree. I'm not saying this as a Chelsea fan in order to convince them to join, but I think there's some
Obviously,
merit.
that's what you're doing. Obviously, that's what you're doing. No, because to be very
I
honest,
agree.
to be very,
I agree.
to be very honest, to be very honest, first off, I don't even think Chelsea needs Sancho, right? Like, I think you guys are a squad that has a profile of players that you don't need Sancho in there to add
Yeah, I
any
agree.
additional depth. So I don't think that swap is sensible to
No,
Chelsea.
please don't.
Secondly, to
No. So I
Sterling
want to
going to
respond
United.
before you go to the second
Uh-huh.
point. Don't give Man U fans the hope that we need Sancho because he's such a good player.
No,
No,
no, no,
of
no,
course,
no.
like
I'm saying that you
I think
don't.
he just makes business. I think I agree with you that we don't need him.
Yeah.
This move is only business in a business sense. They want to offload the wages. Sterling and Chilwell are the top two earners, and you bring
See,
in someone who is a
that's
low
the thing.
earner.
That's why I
And
said this deal, obviously, Chelsea doesn't need Sancho, but they get to sign Sancho on the current wage structure that they have, while uploading the
exactly,
exceptionals on the current wage
yes,
structure that they have. And the
yes,
deal makes more sense to Chelsea than it does to United because Chilwell
exactly.
will be a new Luke Shaw. He would just be another Luke Shaw. They would never play. They would always be injured and always be on your wage bill. Second, Chilwell, Raheem Sterling, like you said, Sterling is no more the exciting pre-COVID Sterling.
Yeah.
Sterling is now. You have another English striker who is Deadwood in this, Rashford. You are just going to add Sterling to
Mm.
him, the outcast English wingers, and then they are there doing what at United. Rashford now, they should find a way to ostracize him. so,
No, this is where my
so
bias comes in. Where like, and of
yeah,
course, the fact that I'm biased does not mean that I cannot give economic advice. I can give it, but you consider it on the basis that
favorable,
I'm biased.
economic advice favorable to one party. we,
No, I think that's where it makes sense is right. Where it makes sense
yeah,
is I see a Shaw and Chile playing together, like they go and
please,
tag team in the
please, please,
hospital.
please.
This
They will be at the medical department more times than
that would,
they will be friends at the
that
medical
would be
department.
that would be most unfortunate because the thing is that maybe Chile is fit for the first half. He goes, then Shaw comes back, but Shaw is out in the bit because Chile is fit now. Chile is fit. Chile is
See,
fit, and Shaw always comes back at the end of the season.
no, Chile is
So
fit. Play Chile. Play him and see.
no. The
Play him
reason we are
and
not
see.
playing Chile is not because he's not fit. It's because he can't play like the tradition, like the
Oh,
kind of
okay,
left back that
I
Maresca
get that
is.
primarily is because of style of play, right? But for instance, a player like, let's say, Shaw, if United wanted to sell Shaw, if you play Shaw in any match, 99% of the time, you keep him on your wage bill for the rest of the season. Because you get hurt in 2 games and that transfer will not happen. Similar to Chilwell, a very good player, very exceptional wing back if he's playing really, really
Mm,
well. Like they are the ones who did the wonders for Tuchel during his days.
mm.
But he's not fit. He's not
Yeah,
Chilwell
I
and his
understand, but
they are no more
I think
fit.
that
I don't know whether
yeah.
it's age or whatever it is,
No, and
actually.
I'll not lie to you. I'll not lie to you. And this particular episode is going to sound cringe because, like, really, this is what it is. This is really what it is. Like, football is
Yeah,
business, and we say it all the time. Is brutal business, and
yeah,
we're saying it in context. We're saying it in context of what exactly is happening, how we think these things will mostly play out on their minds, but um with Chilwell, if he needs to move, the first thing I wanted to address was the wages. Chilwell, if he needs to move now, would have to move on a lower wage structure. Like
Yeah.
United are not going to be paying him the kind of wages they are paying Chelsea was paying him. Sterling would be saying he will need to renegotiate his contract. It might be higher, but most likely United has the flexibility to determine the kind of contract that they want. So the first thing is, when it comes to an economic, is it economically bad for them? No, because they still get to decide if the deal makes sense for them.
Should
But
give
for
him a
footballing perspectives, now I'm coming for footballing perspectives. Someone like Sterling makes sense because you have Garnacho, Ahmad. Anthony is already looking like he's facing out of the team. I don't know when he'll come back. Some experience in that team, that's a lot of good, especially if Sancho is going down. So I do think that Sterling will still do a lot for the team. Would it be nice to see someone who played for Man City play for you? You can spin that narrative within your fan base. Like I think
I mean,
it changes nothing.
Van Persie left and went to United when Arsenal United rivalry
Yeah,
was at the peaks.
United fans celebrated and said we took your best
Yeah,
striker, used it to win the league.
but
So I
obviously,
don't think those things matter.
Sterling is no
And I
Van
think
Persie. He won't
yeah,
celebrate.
I think in the, I think in the left back market also, you don't find a better left back who is available than Chilwell. And I know with those positions, sometimes you can get someone young and the person will come in. But especially at this point of the season, Harry
That's
Amas
the,
is not ready.
no, that's the
Like
thing
Harry
for
Amas is
United,
not.
right? I mean, we'll talk about United, so I don't really want to go into their matter. But the thing is, I don't think I personally would rather have you see play Diogo Dalot there because don't add another wage bill to and
Mm,
then 1 year down the line, it's like the Casemiro situation. 1 year down the line, they've lost, even if they instantly impact the team, 1 year down the line, they've lost the fresh value that they brought. Maybe you now have to go into the market and sign a proper left back, and then you sign, and then that player plus Shaw are now there who are like experienced backups, and you don't need two experienced backups on your wage bill,
mm,
especially because yeah, we say Chilwell will have to reduce his wages, but he also has a lot in his cabinet. So these negotiations are not going to be, yeah, you are coming here, so drop to
so
whatever
yeah,
standard
it's
you
going to
want,
be totally
right? Like
reduced. Yeah.
there's some decency and some respect in the wages as well. So it's going to be decent and it's going to be standard, which means you are still going to have issues on your hands. So, and with the new ownership that United have, I don't think
Mm,
they are going to be doing any short-term signings of yeah stopgap measure like
yeah.
one season wonder. So that's the only thing I see there, which is what I'm saying. Like
Yeah, of
I
course.
don't
For me, like I said, I'm very, very biased. So it's not like I don't agree with you. I agree with you, but I'm trying to make them see the sense of what I'm
one
saying.
final thing on Chelsea before we move on. Palmer, Madueke, Jackson, Felix. Yeah, Joao Felix is back, right? With you guys.
Yeah,
He scored a second debut goal. I mean
yeah,
he's an absolutely brilliant player. He's one player I love because of you see there are these players who are like Sancho, right? They are very silky, but usually their shortfall is they are ineffective and they are inconsistent. Felix
mm,
seems to be that kind of player, but not one of those. Felix and Griezmann, they are two players who are not out and out defined position players. They are very, very mobile. And Jack's Palmer is falling into one of those categories as well. They are very, very mobile. You can move them across the front three and all that. But then they make impact on the team. Mostly those typical kind of players, you move them and they're like stopgap measures. They never impact whichever position they are playing. So anytime you move them across, they are like a substandard version. They are doing an okay job, but they are not really there. You put Felix in any of these roles, and he is still threatening, right? Because
yeah.
he's a player who has the quality, he has the hunger, he's still young, he's able to execute, and he's clinical with his chances as well. And so obviously Chelsea got a bargain with the deal that they made. Because I looked at the player that they were about to sell to you guys, Omorudin or what for before.
Rodion.
Hey, Charlie,
Yeah, apparently they
they
sold him back to Porto for a very small amount.
for like 10. They were selling to you guys for like 40 million something. They sold to Porto for like 10. I'm like, hey, football football deals, pa, eh. People are dishonest in negotiations. But yeah, if between that guy
I
and
mean, for me,
Felix, obviously,
I think, I think the Chelsea. Just a quick comment. I think the
yeah,
Chelsea situation also impacted the deal because then they had a player that it was clear that they wanted
yeah,
to
yeah,
let
yeah, yeah,
go.
yeah. Yeah, but I think even if it's for the same price or around the same price, Felix is a much better upgrade on that guy, especially in terms of instant impact that he makes on the team. But the question I wanted to ask is, Maresca has still been very critical of these players who are doing well, like Madueke, Jackson, Misha, Mudrik, right? He's been very, very critical about indecisiveness, consistent. He's very, very critical. Yeah, indecisiveness, consistency, chances that they are missing, decision making. And some people tend to say he is brutal with the comments that he's passing, even when they are doing well. So he's very quick to shift from praise to critique. So you ask him, oh yeah, Noni scored a hat trick. What? Yeah, I'm very happy for him, but like I said, he needs to be consistent. Blah blah blah. And then he won't give you your flowers for 1 minute. He will just give you your flowers for 10 seconds and shift and start criticizing you. Usually, the impact of that mentally is aimed at giving them mental strength, right? But we've also seen instances where those critiques can break down players instead of motivating them. And the question
I
I'm asking is, are these caliber of players Chelsea has one that you should expect the positive end of that spectrum rather than the negative?
Yes, yes, that's the simple answer. Yes, and that's why I was saying that the kind of players that Chelsea assembled,
Yeah,
people don't understand the project. It wasn't just based on footballing ability. Like they spoke on the character, the mind states, the kind of like the mentality of the players they were signing. Like people, this makes me understand that people don't understand the project. It's deeper than the person plays football or his like they would. It was the reason why they put those barricades where you don't even train with the squad. Like when they came immediately, you don't. They said you don't train with the squad so that you don't even infect them with that kind of mentality.
yeah,
Players like Enzo, and already players like Enzo, Caicedo are already captaining the club, and someone just said, it's going to cause a ruckus because these players just came. It's because people don't understand the project. They picked the top kids, kids who were very hungry, kids whose dream is to win Ballon d'Or in
yeah,
whatever position that they were in. Yeah, players like Levi Colwell, like the kind of agencies that would be managing him because of the kind of talents that he is. It's already ridiculous. These guys are young, but they are grown in the mind. Players like Bellingham, these guys are very young, but they're very, very grown in the mind, very, very matured. Disasi was being interviewed on his birthday. He said he's going home so that his mom will cook him a meal, and he was excited. These guys understand what commitment and passion mean and are very, very, very hungry. And you heard Pochettino say it a lot of times that Jackson was always looking to improve. They want you to be hard on them. They want someone who drives them. They want someone who has expectations on them and calls it out. They want someone who challenges them because they also have a lot of personality. So first of
yeah,
all, that's the thing that is needed for the squad. The simple answer is yes. The second thing also is that people don't have an insight into how Maresca operates.
yeah,
The media just took his words and just said brutal. He's very, very considerate. If you listen to his full presses, I don't want anyone to send out the image of his brutal. And I agree that
No, I listen to his
he's
full presence. Usually, my
yeah,
personal assessment is he's just frank, and
yeah, he's
he's
just frank. He's just
plain.
frank. He
He's
has no
plain.
filter.
He doesn't massage things and seek to
Yeah,
sound politically correct. He's just, and you see, we
yeah.
are used to managers who are always trying to be politically
Trying
correct
to
and are
evade. Yeah.
yeah from by
Yeah,
their press managers.
I think that's what's happening. I think what's happening is that we are so used to managers just not telling us that someone who
Yeah,
tells us sounds like they are being brutal. Because
yeah,
what did he say wrong? Like, what did
yeah,
he say wrong? Like, the player did well and he gave him his flowers. Like, oh, honestly, like the way he took his shots. Da. I said he can be inconsistent in training. Are you in training with them? He sees it, and he's probably told the player. The player perhaps accepts the
yeah,
mistake because when you hear the players talk about him, they said he's very, very plain with clear with his details and instruction. Those were, and I made this, I think, the previous time we had the session. When they came, they said that the instructions are clear. Do and do B and do C. It's very, very clear. So, and it's one of the things he has always said that he just wants to maintain clarity with the players. Why should he be telling you that you're playing well and then the next day he's benching you?
yeah, 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 yeah.
asking questions, and he looks like he doesn't want to come and explain. So when you ask him too much, sometimes he just cuts it off because
Yeah,
he just told you so that you know. You see the Conor Gallagher situation, he had
yeah.
no right to be responding and saying yes, there was a deal. He's now back in the hotel. He almost said it as if he heard it from the cleaner in Cobham. Like Conor Gallagher is back. Oh yeah, he's back. Okay, like that's it. And say yeah, he's in the hotel. I think he has some problems with the deal, and that was as far as he knew. And you could see that that's all he knew. If you ask him
He
more, he
doesn't.
says that all I
Yeah.
know is what I've told. If I was him, I'll be hiding the Chelsea documents from him because that really doesn't look like he can hold it in. You ask him, maybe they start
Okay.
investigating Chelsea. Are they investigating Chelsea? Yes. At the moment, they're sitting in the office. Yes. That's all I know. They're sitting there. They're just asking them for the
EPL
papers.
officials had an interview with me
Yeah.
yesterday. They asked me ABC. I told them DEF.
Oh, that's. I mean, we are being ridiculous,
Oh,
but you get the point I'm trying
yeah.
to say. Like he
Oh,
really doesn't
yeah.
sound like he's aiming to be menacing or to be
No, for
very,
me, to be
very.
very honest, I like him, right? I like Enzo
Oh,
Maresca
thank you,
because
thank you. That says
I'm
highly of you. It's not like it's a praise to him. That says
what?
highly of you. Oh, the fact that you like him, that says highly of you.
Obviously, without liking him, there's already a lot of high sayings about me. It's not liking him that validates the high saying. But the point is, I like him because I hate it when like people are not forthcoming, right? And a lot of football managers today are like that. They are not forthcoming, and always that actually hurts the team because when the press leaks these stories, you now have to try and manage the situation because it's been leaked, right? If you didn't come out and say, "Yeah, I told Sterling he's not my kind of winger, I won't play him," and he didn't say it and end it there. And somebody went to hear it from a scoop from Sterling's camp, and they came to release it, and now he has to come and respond to it. Creates unnecessary chaos around the club. Versus you ask him, he said it, he's moved on. Dead issue, right? So, and Chelsea is bound to face a lot of these controversial situations with the way in which they are managing their squad. They are trying to trim, bring down the squad size, do more signings as well for the right profiles, shipping a lot of people onto loans and all that. You are bound to have these unhappy players around. And if you have a manager who is frank and steps up to discuss these issues as they are, you'd always have to be dealing with chaos. And that's
Yeah.
one thing that the friends at the red side always had. A manager who lies and then he always has to come back and now come and try and manage situations. He'll be answering one question for 17 press conferences. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I think, and that's why I feel like all the stars align. Like this could just make sense, and that's why I told you at the beginning. This is a coach who had zero approval rating. Oh. Like
yeah,
the people
yeah.
were like Enzo Maresca. People even had preference for McKenna because of Ipswich. So
Charlie, yeah, to be
because
very
people didn't
honest, at that time, Maresca just his name just sounded nice because McKenna and
yes,
the name there, no. So
Comic McKenna.
Maresca just sounded like a nice name. Plus, also the fact that he had worked with Pep at least gave me some
Yeah.
little bit of ratings for him than McKenna. So
Yeah, I think just a small part of everyone just thought that these guys want to go wild, so maybe they'll just go super wild. But yeah, this is a coach who has built belief over
yeah,
time, and I agree that a huge part of it is also let's see what they are doing and give him time. But the move is so random that you don't want to be the first one to also be like right
yeah,
at the
yeah,
beginning.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong. If he starts losing one or two, the hounds will come out.
Yeah,
The
obviously.
point the hounds have really been shut up because he has had to prove and keep
Yeah,
them quiet. And he has done a very, very good job in keeping them quiet for a very, very long time. And he
yeah,
just needs to go a little bit more because now it's becoming almost undeniable that the
yeah.
squad
He's
will
the
play
right
good football.
person.
It's
Yeah,
like everyone knows. If you ask everyone, what do you think will fail the squad? They will not say, oh, the idea is not going to they'll
yeah,
mostly
yeah.
say that it will be the noise around it
I
and
really
those
like
other things.
the answer he gave as well. That look, and I think he's the one who ended that debate out there. That yeah, Chelsea have 75 players in the dressing room. They don't have
Hmm.
space, and he said, yeah, Chelsea great. They have 45 players. Me, I work with 25. The rest I don't see them. I don't know them. They don't work with me on a weekly basis. I don't see them. So you can say Chelsea, fine. Me, I have a 25-man squad. So stop making it
Yes.
look messy on the outside.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that is end of the
Exactly.
conversation, right? So it's more of he doesn't allow these rumors to fly around and just try
Yeah,
and politic.
especially for this young team, like Charlie Chelsea is really in. We are like this child drowning in the water. We are really in some need of fresh air of positivity. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for me, that's why like the Wolves game was very, very important because it was key in
See,
showing the doubters
last time you
this
made
is
mention that you guys had gone down and you are coming up, and
yeah,
United were now on their way down. And because you had
yes,
both met around the same pedigree, because you are
yes,
on your way up and they are on their way down,
yes,
people thought you guys were at the same level. If you look
yes.
at the signings that United is making now, it reeks
Mm,
of, and the signings they're likely to make in the next transfer window, it reeks of Chelsea two windows ago,
exactly,
right? It
exactly.
reeks of Chelsea 2 windows ago, where they are now trying to offload the deadwood, the big name players, and then bring in people who are hungry. Look at Zegzi, Euro. These are people who are unproven. These are people who now get the time and development in the team. So it's like
No, he's
Chelsea have crossed and is going up. So you guys need to come out of the waters. United are
you
now
need to
neck
clip.
deep in the water. And
You
now
need to
going
clip.
up.
You need to clip that old clip and then add it to this one so that people would know because no the things that we say over here like we give real unfiltered factual
Yeah, yeah,
analysis and
yeah,
that's the whole
yeah.
point of the shaft like we want you to see things in a different way we just want to bring a fresh perspective to some of these conversations like and it's still fun in a way but
Yeah, yeah.
exactly what I said exactly what and they are not even done this
No,
is
oh,
also to
yeah, they are not
they are
done.
not even done. They've not got anywhere. They are yet
They will be
to get
there
rid of
next
the.
season and probably next 2 seasons as well. Next two windows, they will still
Rashford
be there.
signed a new contract 2 seasons ago.
Like, like,
Like, do you get what that is going to do for the squad? And Ten Hag has exceeded his bandwidth of making those kind of big decisions. If he kicks
yeah,
out Rashford, it's
because
over for him.
right now, and to be very honest, right now, I don't even blame him for whatever is happening with Rashford because it's one of two situations. It's going to be the Sterling situation we're just describing. It's either the club is bold enough to say we are ostracizing him and he's leaving, or you have to play him because if not, he's a big earner who is sitting on the bench and doing nothing. Because sometimes I ask
No,
myself, why are you starting Rashford? Play Ahmad and Garnacho and you have a better starting 11 than putting Rashford anywhere near that starting 11.
yeah, I have some thoughts on this. I think also there's an additional reason to this.
Yeah,
Like Rashford is like a club's worth is massively improved by the team's worth. The
yeah,
worth of the team, that's like the total market value of the players. And
yeah,
market value of the players is not like what eventually comes on the transfer market because that's affected by a new set of things.
yeah,
So you realize that sometimes they do the slides and there are market value of Mason Mount because we signed him for zero, and then all of a
yeah,
sudden now he's winning trophies, things like that. A player, so when a player's career is on a trajectory, market value is really really high. So
yeah,
when PSG was trying to approach Rashford, the fee they were mentioning was 120,
yeah, yeah,
150 million. So Rashford is one of the biggest. I think now they are trying to make Bruno the face of the club, but
yeah,
Rashford is one of the biggest. He's the future of Man United, if we are being honest. He's the one who will now lead the kids. He's one of the most extremely talented. He's one of the top earners within the club.
in the future we
So
did back off.
yeah, so if you agree to cut him off, you are taking a massive loss on him. They can't do him like Sterling. Sterling already the market value was very very low, so like you
Yeah.
couldn't go lower, and that's what I was saying in the
I mean,
beginning.
that's
That's
the
letting
thing.
it out.
It's whether or not Rashford, when you leave him for another season that he doesn't perform, his market value even gets worse, which is going to be the truth.
That's also a good point.
It's going to be the truth because if you leave him for another
That's
unperforming season, because currently people are mentioning, oh, 70 million. See, if
it.
it goes
Yeah.
another unperforming season, it will drop 50, 45
Yes.
because those
Yes.
are the
I
margins
agree.
that people will be mentioning, right?
Maybe not as rapidly, but I agree that if he has another unperforming season, it's already sends a signal then that maybe Man United will start looking for a way to ship him out,
Yeah,
and that would make
yeah.
it. job. Yeah,
And
but I
look at
don't think Ten Hag
similar,
can make that decision.
um,
I don't think Ten Hag
similar
can make that decision.
situations like Osimhen. I think Osimhen made a very huge mistake trying to renew his
I don't know
contract.
who is repping him. The guys repping him. I don't know. I'm sorry. Like, of course, I don't know about agency and agency work, but it looks like they're making like a terrible job with regards to
Yeah,
PR and in
yeah.
general, like even the whole deal. The deal doesn't make sense
Osimhen
to me. I'm sorry.
shouldn't
I'm
have
just
signed.
ignorant.
If he knew he wasn't staying in Napoli for the long haul, he shouldn't have signed that extension and on that wages. Because now, back then, everybody was hungry for him. Everybody wanted, even Chelsea at the time, like you were saying, if not for Poch and the rest, were hungry to go and get him because he had just, like, top scorer. Napoli had just won the Scudetto. His market value was top, 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 and Napoli could have earned millions on him. Everybody was hungry. It was like, I don't think at the time, even Haaland, before he came to City, had that much press
No,
around him like
no,
Osimhen did, right?
no.
And then this guy goes, signs another contract. One season later, he's out of touch and favor with the club who wants to ship him away to Saudi. He's now coming out ranting because he doesn't want to go. He wants a new. He has this ridiculous demands of, I don't want a loan deal. I'm not going for any wages less than the one I'm currently on, and I have a contract with Nap. I'm like, what are you doing? Right? What are you
You
doing?
see, I think sometimes the management of a player and the average sports fan probably wouldn't care too much or know about this, but players have different types of management and they can determine the career trajectory of a player, whether the career will go well or not. So clearly, someone like Luka Modric, his management agency has been superb because he's
Well,
always found himself on lucrative contracts,
yeah.
found himself in the right space at the right point in time, making the right
And you see the way
decisions for
he's
you.
doing his Madrid situation, 1 year extension. Then he
Yeah.
proves his worth. Then
I don't know
one
how
year
they're able to
extension.
pull out 1 year
Yeah.
extensions for him because
Then he
players
proves
who
his
hit
worth.
5 are sent out. Yeah.
Then 1 year
Like I think
extension. And you see, that is a player both milking his legendary status well, but also his current impact that he can have on the team. He accepts that he
yeah.
doesn't play a lot. He doesn't cause trouble now when he doesn't play. He's accepted that he's not
Yeah.
a starter, a regular player. But he knows in the
Yeah.
big games when the manager calls on him, I'm Modric. Let me show my class for 35 minutes and walk away.
Yes. Yes. And he still
Right?
puts in the effort like you've given him
Yeah.
full time. And apart from even the player side, I just want to highlight on the management side, he looks like he's been well managed, whoever it is.
Yeah.
And if you say, oh, you don't know about management, you don't know what's going on, that's the whole point. You are not even so when you see an artist
Yeah.
and an artist doing well, it's not really them sitting down and thinking this and this and this. Someone is
Yeah.
behind there by the brain.
Orchestrating.
And in the
Yeah.
same vein, some players don't have or manage themselves,
Because
some
you look
use
at the likes of
relatives.
Erling Haaland, we talk
Yeah,
about his quality and all that. He's had one of the most impeccable managements around his
yes,
club
yes,
trajectory, right?
yes. His
Yeah.
deals with Borussia Dortmund and
Huge
City.
Dortmund, City, superb management and upward trajectory. Today, Osimhen cannot sing the same song. And if today you
Yeah.
were to mention 2 seasons ago, you were asked to mention the top two strikers, any striker who can rival Erling Haaland, you definitely say Victor Osimhen.
Yeah, he's the closest now in comparison. Like and around that time there was like, I observed it. It's just unfortunate we didn't have this podcast, so obviously we didn't have that discussion where there was. I'll call them the rise of the false prophets. You had
Yeah,
the Kolo Muanis, you had like a lot
exactly.
of these guys come up,
Goncalo
Gonzalo,
Ramos.
and you think, oh, all of these guys are going to blow up in the market and become
Yeah,
top strikers. I think time and time again we've seen
even
this
Rasmus
wave.
Højlund,
Players coming.
who was
Yeah,
touted
yes,
similar.
yes. It was part of the conversation. Players come like there's a whole trajectory of players, and people think, oh, the market is
Yeah,
going to explode with them. There are periods where the market just goes dry, and people are
right.
not aware of these ebbs and flows. So good management, good agents take advantage of those situations. Like
Yeah,
football, your career is really fickle. A club needs to have need of you. And for some
yeah,
reason, you needed to have those specific skills, characteristics that matches
yeah,
or fits in the club, which
yeah,
we can't say for every normal job because for every normal job, there's just demand. We just
yeah,
need people who
yeah,
can do this. For this, we need specific, specialized skill. So
Yeah.
football is very, very fickle. So I think his management did a very, very, very,
Plus,
very poor job.
when
And
you
they are
become
still
a
doing it.
professional footballer and your skill set is determined, it's so hard to convince people that you know how to do something else.
Something else,
Yes,
yes.
you have been
Yes,
told
yes. You
you
need
are
to
a striker,
convince
you are a
someone.
specific profile of a striker. Even if people are looking for a striker and they are not looking for your profile, it's so difficult to convince them that you are that profile they are looking for.
I mean, and Victor Osimhen, luckily, is young and good enough for everyone
Yeah,
to think, okay, it can work, or okay,
yeah,
we can make it work. I think for some reason at Chelsea, like Maresca is showing that one like Magui, for example, is
yeah,
quite good with the press, but he's also a box striker. And Nicholas
yeah,
Jackson is better outside the box, and he's been able to play styles which suits both of them. And obviously, Osman is not like a slack when it comes to outside of the box. Sometimes with his
yeah. He
carries, he has
presses.
carry,
Yeah.
his pressing, yeah, the way he can hands the ball creates. The thing with Osimhen is that chance creation. He'll get chances. He knows
He
how to create
will, and
chances as a
he
striker.
works so hard. Like he works so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Like people just don't see that part of him. Like he works for the team. Like he
Hey,
creates chances, and that's all good
yeah,
strikers. That's what distinguishes good strikers from normal strikers. Normal strikers, you
yeah.
need to work the system and make them be fair.
For them,
The top
yeah,
elite strikers create chances for themselves,
yeah,
create situations. Sometimes things you don't see on the pitch, but sometimes their movements,
yeah,
the way they place themselves, and
yeah,
cause
yeah,
awkward situations. You see ones where players throw the ball back to them. Benzema scored like
yeah,
so many of those. Yeah,
yeah.
sometimes those things add up to your game, and Victor Osimhen is quite good with that.